Hello, hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope that you guys are doing fantastic. Got another short but sweet one for you guys today. So as always, I'm going to start off with a little bit of high and low, and I'm going to start off with my low this week. So I have a doctor's appointment today. I am going to a doctor's appointment that is so long overdue, it's really not even funny. But I am going to the gastro. So after I got my Hashimoto's diagnosis, I started doing a little bit of research on autoimmune disorders, and it seems that if you have one, oftentimes you have another one. I have had a terrible stomach for since I was 18 at least. And it's made for some really funny stories along the way, if I'm being completely honest, but it's really not good, to be honest. Like, I have major stomach problems. So rather than it being this like quirky thing, like I feel like it's so common, like a lot of people have stomach problems. But for me, now that I know about the autoimmune thing, I'm like, okay, maybe this is something more serious. So I'm gonna go get it checked out. I have this really just feeling, okay? I've had the feeling for a while. I felt this way, especially after I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Of course, what does everybody tell you? Oh, gluten-free, dairy-free. And I'm like, how about no, right? Like, I love dairy, specifically dairy, like gluten, I'll go into in a minute, but dairy, I'm like, does anybody understand my love for cheese? I don't think so. But here's the thing, because I have to follow a low carb diet and a low glycemic index diet, I'm like, great, now we're gonna layer on gluten-free and dairy-free. Like, am I going to be able to eat anything that's not just like fresh vegetables, fruit, and meat? Like, I love snacks. I love processed foods. I love eating like a quote unquote normal person. And so I just like have this feeling like I'm gearing up to hear something that I know is coming that I'm not ready for at all. Okay. So that is my bad week. That's my confession. Like, I know I just need to get over myself, but it's really hard. And like, just like I always talk about when I was told that I had to go low carb, there's a mourning process that comes with it. You know what I mean? And it's just really sad. Like, I don't want to cut those things out of my diet. I never wanted to cut carbs out of my diet or lower my carbs significantly. That was never something I wanted to do, but I knew that I had to. Here's where my problem is when you do low carb, oftentimes gluten-free items are not low carb. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? I guess like there goes all of my substitutions that I found along the way. Plus, when you do low carb, again, you do really rely heavily on dairy, gluten-free, Greek yogurt, cheese, like just those filler dairy products that help you get a little bit more of your protein, or just help maybe your food taste a little bit better, help you kind of forget that you have to eat low carb. So anyway, that's my low. And I'm really just speculating, but I have a weird feeling. So my high is that, listen, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm not good at hiding things at all. And it's really like no secret. I've been in a weird, like kind of funk lately. Like, it's not, I can't really put my finger on it, but if I had to guess, it's just being over having so many things wrong with me. You know what I mean? I've talked about it the last few weeks about how tough that diagnosis that I recently got has been on me, and I'm just defeated. And so my high is that I have decided to exit my funk. Just like I would tell any of you guys, or I have maybe already told some of you guys who work with me one-on-one, you have to have an expiration date on your funk. Because if not, it'll be out of control, right? And so I just have sat in my feels for the last few weeks. I've not put any action in place. I haven't made any big decisions to make changes or to help myself in really any way. And in fact, I've actually really regressed. My eating is not great. I'm eating more than normal. I'm not drinking as much water as I've been drinking. I feel like my habits are all over the place. I'm like in this weird like depression almost. And I woke up yesterday morning and I got on the scale and I did not like what I saw. And I was like, you know what? Being in this funk, this isn't serving me. This is not getting me closer to my goals. And I've got to practice what I preach, right? It's time to put my big girl panties on and move on and do what I know I need to do and do what I did the first time I got a diagnosis that I didn't like the sound of. And that's just put action behind it and fix it, right? So I'm saying this preliminarily to my doctor's appointment I'm going to, where I know I'm going to hear something I don't want to hear. And I'm just going to have to navigate it and figure it out and just do it, because I know at the end of the day, it's going to make me feel better, right? If the doctor is telling me, hey, this is happening to you because of XYZ, and it's in my control to fix it, then I just need to fix it, right? Because that was my whole why in the first place, is that I wanted to be healthy. I want to be healthy, not want to be healthy. And I want to live a really active, happy life with no restrictions and no, limits on anything. And so this might be what it takes in order to live that life, whether I like it or not, right? So I woke up today and I said, okay, I'm sitting down, I'm doing my calendar since I haven't done it in a couple weeks. I'm doing my calendar for the week. I'm getting organized. I've got my workout later tonight. Never miss a Monday. So I've decided to get back on track. And so that kind of leads me into what I want to talk about with you guys today. And I feel like this should end up being a series called like Calling Myself Out. And there is this thing called grind culture, okay? If you're not familiar with it, it's basically the I'll sleep when I'm dead. It's the hustle, hustle, hustle. It's the, I'm exhausted, but I have to keep going because you don't meet your goals in your sleep and all of these things, right? But that culture is not something I want to be a part of anymore. And I have historically very much been a part of. It's almost ingrained in my DNA. Hello, high achievers that are listening to this. A-type high achievers, special hello to you guys. It's really kind of sick, right? And with anything, when you're changing your life or you're trying to really focus on your goals and put action behind it, it can be really hard not to get caught up in the grind culture. And it's something that I'm calling myself out on. You know what I mean? I don't want to be the person who sleeps, not going to sleep till they're dead. That's not the life I want to live. I want to live a life of happiness, fulfillment, peace. Those two things don't go hand in hand, right? So I'm straight up just going to call myself out from here on out whenever I find myself in this grind culture. And I'm going to really be mindful and work on finding a balance between grinding and putting the work in, because I'm an entrepreneur and that's what I have to do in order to grow my business and in order to reach my goals. So there has to be a level of grind, and I think grind is a good thing, but grind culture is where there's a line that needs to be drawn, and it can be really fuzzy and it can be really hard to be in this place where you're in a growth mindset and you're working really hard towards your goals, but you also need to have boundaries with yourself. There is nobody's boundaries that I cross more than my own. And I find that when I'm mindfully trying to be present and aware of my habits and the work that I'm doing and my calendar planning and all of these things, that I'm usually pretty good about putting limits on my day of, okay, here are the things that I need to get done. I'm putting them on my calendar. This can wait till tomorrow or till next week. It's not a priority for this week, and really kind of have this really balanced life. Now, what happens to me is when I get off balance, or when I don't do my calendar, or when I feel overwhelmed, the kind of overwhelm where you have so much to do and you don't know where to start, and you're just like, you could just cry, and instead you just sit there and you're working, but you're not being really productive because you don't know what you're doing and you don't have a plan. And what happens to me is that when I get into that kind of phase, I end up overworking myself. Those are the days that I'm on my computer until midnight, looking at my clock and going, oh my gosh, I have to be up at 5:20. I didn't have a single second for myself today, that doesn't feel authentic or true to myself or who I want to be or the life that I want to live. And it is my baseline, you guys. It's horrible. I hate that I'm like that, but I just have to really keep that mindfulness of this isn't getting me closer to my goals, which has been literally on repeat in my mouth over and over again for the last few weeks. This is not getting me closer to my goals. Now, sometimes I continue the behavior and sometimes I'm like, yeah, this isn't getting me closer to my goals. This is it. It's the line is being drawn. It's not happening anymore. And it's a journey, guys. I am still learning. I am not perfect, but I can recognize I have come a long, long way. And I feel like this kind of grind culture really goes hand in hand with the idea of I am going to stop saying yes to the things that I don't want to do. And I'm going to use that time to do things that I do want to do, right? So let me just give you an example. How many of you guys have been invited out to dinner with a group, or it's somebody's birthday and you feel obligated to go, but you have had an insanely busy week. You're just absolutely up to your eyebrows in work and in stress. And you know that time, that 4-hour time period where it would take you to get ready, to get in your car, to drive to the dinner, to XYZ, and then to have to be social and even further potentially drain your cup so that you're not ready for the next day. Like, you know that that's not going to serve you, but you do it anyway. Yeah, because you're human, because that's normal, by the way. But it's a practice because you don't have to live your life like that. I have really learned that I can't be the perfect friend, the perfect wife, the perfect business owner, the perfect XYZ all the time. And I have to say no to things, and I have to potentially maybe disappoint people if it means that I'm taking care of, number one, me, right? And it's okay to be a little selfish. And I'm talking to you, moms, caregivers, anybody who isn't currently taking care of themselves who is listening to this. It is okay to be selfish and take care of you sometimes, right? And there are going to be things that you have to do that you don't want to do, right? That's just being an adult and that's life. But when it's in a social setting, I want to say it was 2 years ago, but I think it actually might have been 3. It was on my New Year's resolutions, and I said, I am going to stop saying yes to things that I don't want to do. And do you want to know what happened? My social circle dwindled, you guys. It just did. People invite you to do stuff over and over, then you're not showing up or you're not going. And then they're like, you know what? I'm just not going to invite her anymore. And so like I said, my circle really shrunk, and that was a little bit hard for me at first. But I think that once COVID hit, it really changed my own personal perspective of social situations. And I've learned that it's not about how many people are around me, it's about the quality of those people. And that's not to say that I don't have people in my life that I absolutely love that I don't reach out to as much as I'd like to. I'm not as good of a friend to those people as I would like to be, but the people that are true, real friends, they understand the things that you have going on in your life, and they understand that this is just a phase that you're in, and that you're trying to take care of you and get into a really good routine. And sometimes that means that I don't always answer all my text messages, or I don't always make the time to give that friend a call on the phone, because when I have the 30-minute drive, I have to work on making work calls to catch up. You know what I'm saying? So it can be really tough, and it can be this really hard thing to balance. But that is where my absolute favorite thing comes into play. Can you guess what it is? Oh, it's a brainstorm. Yep. Love me a good brainstorm. Okay, so I'm actually hosting a seminar this week as well, talking about getting organized, and this will be kind of a part of that conversation as well. But if you can literally sit down and you can set yourself a timer for maybe, and by the way, I'm a big proponent of timers during brainstorms, because when there is a clock counting down, it keeps you accountable to making sure your pen is moving, right? You got to keep that pen moving, you got to keep going, and you got to stay focused. But when you don't have a timeline or a timer going, sometimes it's like, oh, how long am I going to sit here and do this? But when you have the timer, it's like, okay, I'm doing this until this timer runs out, and then it's done and I got to walk away. By the way, I set timers for more than just brainstorms. I set timers for my calendar. Like if my calendar is saying stop something and move on, it's a hard stop. I got to move on to the next task, or the rest of my day is going to be negatively affected. So anyway, you set your timer and you write out every single thing that you have to do, and you can categorize it, which I recommend doing: work, personal, friendships, health. Like you can even get, like you can do personal as a big umbrella, and then you can have health, you can have marriage, you can have friendships, you can have XYZ, and then you write down everything that you need to do or want to do, right? And then that need/want, you'll later go in and you'll prioritize those things, so that you can appropriately figure out what needs to be done first, and then you can get those things scheduled on your calendar. This I know sounds kind of crazy to maybe those who aren't that overachiever, A-type, like kind of most people would be like, holy crap, what's wrong with you? But it really does work, and it helps bring that control back into your life. And again, going kind of piggybacking off what we talked about last week here, it's you don't let your life rule you, you rule your life. And this gives you a little bit of that control back into your everyday life. And maybe you'll find that what was taking you 10 hours to do, maybe a 10-hour workday, you're now getting done in 6 hours. And now you have 4 additional hours to spend reading, or buying clothes for a trip coming up, or calling that friend on the phone. You'll find that you have so much more time in the day to do what you need to get done and to have a more overall fulfilled life. But going back to the original topic at hand, that grind culture is really toxic, and it's something that I'm seeing kind of everywhere, to be honest, especially on Instagram, right? Especially those creators that, I'm not going to say names, but you can maybe read between the lines. I find that male specific influencer, and maybe you could even call them motivational speakers, they really have this like grind culture feeling around them. It's very wake up at 4 a.m. and do this and this and this, and then you gotta, if it hurts too bad, you gotta push through it. And I find that it's this very like toxic masculinity kind of feel to it, but it's kind of bled into females as well, right? Oh, if you want to be a girl boss, female entrepreneur, whatever, you got to put the time in and you got to make sacrifices. And yes, all of those things are true to an extent, right? Rest is so important. If you are not currently building in any rest into your current life, I am personally challenging you to look at your calendar, look at your schedule, and figure out, everybody has maybe 2 or 3 hours a week that you can spare, be it that you're spending scrolling mindlessly on the internet or just XYZ. Why don't you decide, what fills my cup? When is the last time you sat down and really thought about, what makes me happy? What is my happy place? Do I have a happy place? If I had to think of a happy place, what would that happy place look like, right? And if it's maybe laying on a beach in Tahiti, whatever, right? Obviously, you're not gonna on a Tuesday be like, okay, I'm going to lay on a beach in Tahiti, be right back. But if your vision is maybe laying on a beach in a hammock, reading a book and just listening to soft music, then you can do that at home, right? Then that means, okay, time to buy a hammock, time to pick up a new book, time to take 15 minutes out of my day just to have those little moments of peace to be able to get it done. So food for thought, you guys. If you're somebody who's like me and you feel like you've kind of been a victim, fallen victim to that grind culture, I think that it's just one of the things that we have to call ourselves out on and make a mindful effort to change. So with that being said, I want you guys to really think about some changes that you can make to gain some more hours in your life and use those extra hours for moments of peace, okay? Everybody, happy Friday. Take care of yourselves. I seriously think I'm gonna make this a serious series, things I'm calling myself out on. Everybody, take care, and I will talk to you next Friday. Stay sexy.